Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at Etrailer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Kuat Transfer V2 two-bike platform rack right here on our 2017 Hyundai Accent. So the Kuat Transfer V2 is going to be the easiest bike rack to use. It has the easiest lever system and the easiest mounting and dismounting of your bike rack because of its unique goalpost design. So when you have two bikes up on there, you can step into here, put the first bike on, strap that down, and then go over here and you put the second bike on. You don't have to reach around the first one in order to access the second one, things like that. So we're gonna take a look at features like that and see if they're gonna be the right fit for you, your bicycles, and your Hyundai Accent. So the first feature we'll take a look at is the tilt away feature. Why would you want to tilt your bike rack away? Well, while you can open your trunk with the bikes on, let's take a look at that, because look how I have our normal sized handlebars, and even though they're kind of on the long side, we definitely still have clearance there. But what if you have a big box or you have big coolers and you need more space? That's where the tilt away feature comes in handy. So the way I do it is I just lift this cradle up, I step into our bike rack, I step on that lever while supporting the bikes with one hand, and that just tilts down just like that. And now look at how much more space we have in order to grab things out of our trunk. So this is a lot more evident when you have vehicles like hatchbacks that really need that space, but it's still nice to see that we can tilt our bike rack away with the bikes on and then be able to get our larger items out of our trunk. So let's talk about the way our bike is mounted to this bike rack and the types of bikes you can carry on this. So this does have a weight capacity of 40 pounds per bike, which is a little bit more than your traditional bike rack, which is usually around 35 pounds per bike. Now where this truly shines is that goalpost design, making it easier to access your bikes, and you have this front wheel mount. So you have two things holding the bike down. You have your rear wheel strap and that front wheel mount. I like pretty much any bike rack that has a front wheel mount because it's just so much easier to use compared to a frame mount. Also, if you have bikes of different shapes and sizes, let's say you have a kid's bike or a women's frame or a step-through bike, having that frame design makes it so much easier to carry them because then you don't need to get a frame adapter bar. Also, if you have a carbon fiber frame bike, you're going to want a bike rack with a wheel mount so that you don't accidentally warp or damage your frame. In the back, we have this rear wheel strap, and that's where we start when we want to take the bike off. So you press this lever, pull up on that strap, and what I like to do is just kind of move this over to the side so it doesn't get caught up in our spokes. And then I go over here to the front, I step into that goalpost design, I hold our bike with one hand because the moment you release it, you don't want it tilting back towards your car. You press that button here, lift up on that hook, push that hook out, and just like that, it's a slight lift and you're ready to go on a bike ride. With the bike off, we can take a closer look at the bike rack itself. So this is going to be your rear wheel cradle. Notice how we have different grooves on the inside. That's to accommodate different tire widths. Now you have the strap that goes around the wheel and then that cinches down the wheel. So normally you can carry up to 3-inch wide tires, and if you have fat bike tires, you just get the strap adapter kits and that will allow you to carry those wider tires. Now both cradles can adjust. That one actually takes a little bit of adjustment with a tool, but this one just pivots back and forth for different wheelbases. So the maximum wheelbase you can carry on with this bike is going to be up to 50 inches. And then you have that front wheel cradle with the same types of grooves. Notice that it's an extra wide cradle for when you do get that fat bike strap adapter. And then to secure that front wheel, you have your front wheel mount. So I already talked about how much I like this. Notice though that when you want to bring this down, you have two different options to secure it. You can keep it on the inside. That folds down like this, but what I like to do is just bring it over to the outside and then cinch it underneath our rear cradle just so that everything is nice and neat. And then you can take advantage of the open design of that goalpost frame. Now, let's talk about the length added to the back of our vehicle. This is actually a larger 2-bike platform rack. That's because of the way things are spaced apart. Your bikes sit 11 inches away from each other, but you get that adjustability in order to get clearance with your pedals, your handlebars, things like that. Now, let's take a measurement for how much length is added to the back of our Accent though, because measuring from our bumper to the end of the bike rack right over here, it sits at 33.5 inches. So that's gonna be a measurement to keep in mind whenever you're backing into your garage or parking into a tight spot. You already have a smaller car, so it shouldn't be that big of an issue. But if you have a smaller garage, just be mindful that you now have a bike rack as well as bikes behind you. Now, ground clearance is something you're gonna have to be mindful with your sedan because your Hyundai Accent sits lower to the ground compared to SUVs and trucks. So measuring at the very end of the bike rack, at the bottom portion, it sits at 13 inches off the ground. Compare that measurement to over here by the Shank. That sits at only 8 inches from the ground. So there is gonna be a slight shank rise, which is good. Not as impressive as other platform bike racks, but still gonna be helpful because as you go over the steep inclines like your driveways or hills, your front will go up, your back will go down, and with this sitting about further away from your car, you want that shank rise so that way your bikes sit higher up off the ground. Now, we talked about how this is a larger bike rack, so what if you're not planning on taking your bikes out for a ride, but you also don't want to take your bike rack off? What you can do is you can fold this bike rack up into the portable or folded up position. To do so, we have that lever over there. We used it earlier. Now we're just gonna press on that lever and then just lift up on the bike rack and it snaps into place. This is also the position I recommend having your bike rack in when you store it in your garage. Taking some measurements, I'm gonna measure for the closest point. We have plenty of clearance between our bike rack and our car. In fact, we have about 3.5 inches of clearance. So that's really good to see. No issues at all with this accidentally making contact with your car. The length now added to the back of our vehicle though, measuring from where we measured earlier on the bumper. The furthest point is gonna be by this foot lever, and that now sits at 13 inches of length. So big difference compared to when this was folded down. You definitely want it in this position when you're planning on driving around town. And let's also check for if we can open up our trunk with it folded up like this. Yep, we still have clearance. So that's really good to see because no matter what position your bike rack is in, you don't lose any access at all to the trunk on your Hyundai Accent. And that can be pretty important for many people. But what's it like living with a bike rack behind you? Well, with it folded up like this, notice how our rear window is still visible. It doesn't obstruct it at all. Our taillights are still mainly visible. Yep, on both sides. And our backup or our license plate sits right over here inside that goalpost design. So that's good because compared to other platform racks, especially the ones with trays, they could possibly cover your license plate. So you want to make sure that you're both legal and visible on the road. So this has an 1.25 inch shank, and when you purchase this bike rack, you also get a 2-inch hitch adapter in case you have a 2-inch hitch on your car. Here we only have a 1.25 inch class 1 hitch. This includes a hitch pin as well as this lock. Notice how it's not an anti-rattle bolt. That's because right over here, we have this security bolt. So you need a special Kuat tool in order to tighten this down and extend the ball cam on the inside. Notice how we don't have a lock either on our hitch pin. You can get that separately if you want to secure it, but usually this wrench is more than enough. So this is the hex tool that you use to tighten that anti-rattle mechanism down. And while I love the Kuat Transfer and I really like its design, this is the one thing I don't like about it, just because it could be tedious to use when you are in a hurry. So if you're planning on taking this off several times off of your hitch receiver, maybe not going to be the best option, but if you're just leaving it on, it's actually a really secure fit. So let's demonstrate how the anti-rattle ball cam on the inside works. As you shake the bike rack, it's to simulate that road wind vibration. Notice how I'm really just moving the car at this point. That's because the fit is really secure between the hitch receiver and the shank. If you do notice extra rattle, just make sure your different bolts on the hinges as well as the bike rack itself are tightened down. But that's gonna be good if you wanna leave this on your car for long term. You want a stable and secure fit. Here on our test course, we'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Once we get to the alternating speed bumps, we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or a pothole or driving over uneven pavement. So your Hyundai Accent, if it does have a Class 1 hitch, your bike carrying options are limited. You can't carry more than 2 bikes on a Class 1 hitch. So a 2-bike platform rack is probably going to be the best you're going to get at. If you do want to carry more than 2, you might want to get a trunk mount bike rack instead that can carry up to 3 bikes. But even then, it's going to be tricky because then you can't open up your trunk. It's hard to access your trunk as well. And then it could cause damage on your paint over time. You could also get a roof mounted bike rack if you want to increase the bikes you can carry. So with that in mind, comparing the Kuat Transfer as a 2-bike platform rack with other bike racks we have here at Etrailer, I think this is going to be the best for the ease of use for mounting and dismounting your bikes. For weight capacity though, if you need a little bit more, your Class 1 hitch does limit you a little bit, but you may want to check out the Swagman Schnook. That has a slightly more weight capacity at 45 pounds per bike. It's very sturdy too, and it's also going to be the most compact platform rack for the Hyundai Accent, if that's going to be cool. It's about half the size of the Kuat Transfer, but not as easy to mount and dismount your bikes. For a more premium bike rack that looks even better than the Kuat Transfer, you may want to check out the Kuat Sherpa with the 1.25" shank. But there's a bunch of different pros, a bunch of different cons to our different bike racks. Again, ease of use is the Kuat Transfer. Hopefully this video helped you out with making that decision so that you can get the right and the perfect fit for you, your bikes, and your vehicle. So this was right here a quick look at our Kuat Transfer V2 2-bike platform rack on our 2017 Hyundai Accent.